Here's the RD60, currently mocked up. This is all really, nothing is welded in at all. Just kind of sitting. Look at the monoshock is just zip tied up there just to give me an idea of what we're working with. The rear swing arm and wheel, these are going to be scooted up about an inch. You can see it doesn't quite line up with that little walkthrough of my shop setup currently. A little bit dirty. I have a few too many bikes, but sorry about that. Here's the original RD60 stuff I pulled off. There's the original rear wheel, fender, shocks, some hardware, seat, upholstery rather. There's all my tool setup. Flammables cabinet. It's the original RD60 tank compared to the new one. Shape is perfect, but a little bit wider. I thought about cutting out the middle and welding it back together with maybe an inch less, but I don't think it'll be worth the trouble, so we're just gonna run that as is. Yeah, here's just a few of my little toys, Yamaha gear. A lot of these bikes aren't mine. Some of these are my friends. Most of them are mine, but I like to work on other people's stuff and postpone my own projects. Air compressor, motor pecan moped I've been working on for a client. It's been a pain in the ass. It's really clean though. And that brings us to the RD60. Here's all the parts laid out. There's the fender. This is right when the air compressor broke. So, or not air compressor, the sandblaster. So I'm gonna have to sand the rest of this by hand. I'll do some of that this video. Which isn't that big of a deal. I'm okay with that. I have here's the clutch cover, flywheel cover. There we go. Looks like I'm missing part of the clutch cover. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. All right, and after lining everything up and doing some comparisons, I noticed a pretty obvious problem. One is that the distance between these 2 points is a little bit smaller than the existing mounting point. And the other problem is, here's the original axle that slid into here. That is a whole lot smaller than the new one. That is definitely not going to fit. So what I think the best thing to do, rather than space this out with a spacer that will fit the old axle, I think the best way is going to cut this out on both sides. See, there's a little tab hanging off. Cut and grind that out. And I don't know if you can see a little bit there, that there's a tube that goes the entire stretch on the inside here. See if I can get a shot of the inside. Yeah, so that tube either needs to get cut out as well. So that'd mean pulling the engine out of the frame, which will happen sooner or later, and cutting it from the inside from here, or just cutting these out and then drilling through. Drilling through might be easier, but I don't know if that's entirely possible. I don't know how many drill bits that would take. It'd have to be pretty long, but we'll hopefully try that. And after doing some measurements here, I calculated that we're gonna need something 3/8 of an inch, a little tab, and it needs to accept a 14mm axle. That's the size of a new axle. So I'm probably gonna have to get that machined, and it'll need to be a little bit, maybe a 1/2 millimeter over, so that it accepts the new axle smoothly. Once I get these ground down, cleaned up, and drilled out, or cut out, I can install those tabs. And if I can't drill that out to the correct size, then I'll have to get a whole pipe made, slide it in there, weld it in from the inside, and then I'll be ready to mount. And from there, I have to worry about getting this chain to line up. And I don't know 100% yet, because this wheel is not what originally came with this swing arm. I put it on there because they have the same axle size, and this is what was available to me. And I don't have the rest of the brake here, so I don't have the size of the true width of the wheel. So I need to order all of that stuff and get everything that's required to run this rear wheel, and then I'll know what the spacing will look like. Get it aligned in the center of the swing arm so the wheel's not offset like it is now. And then from there, see how close this is to the front chain sprocket. And this is a really big deal. If it's off, I'm in a lot of trouble. What I might end up having to do is cutting the motor mounts here, here, and here on both sides and shifting it over. I think it's gonna, if anything, it's gonna need to come towards me a little bit. Hopefully not a lot or at all. And these aren't really a problem. I can do that. That's okay. I'm a little bit more worried about this one. I think I'm gonna have to, if this is the case, notch this out a little bit so I can pull it over, weld a little tab to this maybe, although this is aluminum, so I'd have to get someone to TIG weld that for me and then bolt it in. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I think that's going to be the only way this is possible. Another problem I have is getting these. This is a diagram of the bottom existing head tube, and this is a diagram of the top existing head tube, and they are two different styles of bearing. So this has the old school traditional loose ball bearing cage, so the bearings just sit in here, and then on the original triple tree there's another cap of a ball bearing cap that just sits on top of that, and that's how it rotates. But on the Derby, it's almost like a huge skateboard bearing. You can think of it like that. And it rests on the skateboard bearing and rotates that way. So I'm going to need to either convert this to that style of bearing, which I don't really know how to do that, or get a cage similar to this, just a little lip with the cup in here, and get one of those cups and weld it to the top and bottom of the steering stem. Or triple tree rather, so that way I could still take it off, and that be how I do that. But I don't know how easy that will be, but I'm gonna figure that out with the guys at the fab shop later. So this has been a lot of this stuff is requires a lot of fabrication, which I expected, but I didn't realize how hard it would be to get two things that weren't designed to be compatible at all and getting one to fit with the other. It's much easier to just start from scratch like I'm doing with the swing arm and take that and fabricate it to the existing frame. But it's a little bit different with the head tube because I have to make the two compatible. And it's certainly possible, but it's definitely not easy. And if anyone at home is trying to do this, learn from my mistakes. I'm definitely not a professional at any of this. I know how to tinker, and that's about it. So I'm learning a lot of this with you guys, so I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm not going to do this stuff right, and that's okay. I got in over my head for a reason. That's the best way I know how to learn, is to bite off more than I can chew and tough it out, and that's certainly what I'm doing. So I'm really excited for the next few things to come, and hopefully it all goes together smoothly. So yeah, this is where it bolts into the frame, or the swing arm rather, and it originally came with from the Derby GPR. It came with this piece because I've never had a Derby GPR. I've only seen a couple in person, so I can't confirm this for sure. But I think it was bolted in two places, so they had it set up something like that. I don't think I'm gonna need all that. But if I need the little bit of clearance, maybe I take one or two pieces of this and help bolt it up. Let's see. Here are the new triple trees. Get these on there. And I know some of you may think it's probably better to mock up the front end before you go to the back end, make it a little easier, which is true. The reason I didn't do that is because the forks I ordered are bent. Oh no. It's okay. you can see, this is the straight one. Yeah, you can see that that's pretty bent. This bike has definitely been laid down, but it's okay. I still got a killer deal on the whole setups for the. I got those along with the monoshock and both wheels, so I'm still happy with it, and the triple tree. So no big deal. I'll just have to find another set. But if we pull this off, I'll show you what my plans are currently for fabrication. So right now, the first step is going to be lining everything up and making sure this rolling frame is going to work. But after that, I plan on cutting this about right here, extending it back maybe 6 inches, maybe a little bit less. I'll play with a few different things once it's cut off and see how it looks. And then I'm going to cut all these little tabs off. Don't need this anymore. I don't need this anymore. I don't need anything like this anymore. And I will get some flat stock and I'll weld something else back in here. But as for up here, this is where my monoshock is going to be mounted to. And for that, I have some plate steel here. So my plan is to put it up, cut it out so it's notched evenly in between the frames, and weld it on there. Reason being, this is the strongest point in the frame where everything all comes together. So I'm going to reinforce that a little bit for a little added strength. And also, I think it's a pretty good mounting spot for the monoshock to be. And yeah, I think that'll be pretty good. I'm going to rewire everything so this electrical looks a little bit like a mess. So I'm just going to get it all tucked up real close, hidden underneath the seat and the tank. Get it as minimalist as possible. Clutch is pretty clean. It's a wet clutch, so they usually stay clean, but you know, happy about that. Let's see. Yeah, I guess that's it for right now. So I'm gonna start working a little bit, trying to get this triple tree on there and see how that goes. So I got the front forks taken off, the rabbit ears and the headlight, the top clamp, and the wheel and the original forks are sitting over there. But I've run into my first big uh-oh moment. I don't really know how I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have to get clever, probably call up a machine shop, because here's the new clamps on there, triple tree, but it's not enough. It's not enough to tighten down that head nut. The original headset is too long, so I have a few options here. I can cut this down and weld it a little bit closer. That's one option. The other option is pressing this out and replacing it with the stock one. That would be pretty hard because I would have to grind the weld off of the bottom. I'd have to grind that completely off right here all the way around, and then get this pressed out, pop that out, and then take this and of course pop this out and then press it back in. But they're not the same size, so I'd have to get this CNC'd, or milled out rather, so it would be the same size, and then press it back in. But then I'm left with that of steel, and I mean, I don't know, that'd be kind of tough to do. But I'm not seeing much of another option, so I'm gonna call a few machine shops and see if I can get a quote for that. I think that's my easiest option, other than I don't really think I can get that extended. Um, I couldn't chop it and weld it because I would distort it, and that's a high accuracy bearing area, so that would kind of mess that up. So I think that's my only option here, which after that would be fairly easy because all of the all of the bearings and stuff would be stocked, so that would work pretty well. But I don't know, a little worried. I'm gonna have to figure something out there and see how it's gonna go. So stay tuned. So after doing some research, taking some measurements, and calling around, I decided to drop off both of the steering stems at a local fabrication shop called Pop Fabrication. They make some really cool choppers and other custom bikes. So they have all the machines and equipment to do that. So I dropped it off there. They're gonna give me a quote and help me figure out a plan for this. And I did a couple measurements, and there are a few things that I'm worried about. I know that swapping the stem over is definitely possible, but I think it's going to be a little bit easier and cheaper to get a stem made that is the same size as the stock one, rather than pushing the old one out, pushing the new one out, and then swapping the old one into the new one and pushing that back in. I'm just gonna push the old one out because it's a press fit, so they don't have to grind any welds, so that just gets pushed out, and then get a new one made that's the same size and put it in. It's just gonna be easier and cheaper that way, probably a little bit stronger too. And also that way I can get threads done at the top, so it's the perfect size, and threads done so I can use the Derby GPR head nut and tighten it all on with an Allen key like the original. So that'll be nice.